Hare Krishna, welcome to the question and answer session on chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita. The first question by Sri Anandji. Thank you for the interesting session today. Question 1 is, if material world is reflection of spiritual world, then gunas exist in spiritual world. Please clear the confusion here. So material world is definitely described in chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita to be the reflection of the spiritual world, but this is a simple example. But if we go into the details of the matter, actually in the spiritual world there are absolutely no incongruities or any of the negative things that are present in the shadow reflection of the material world. So it is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, text number 17, that Nayatra Kalo Animisham Paraprabhuhu Kuto Nudeva Jagatamya Ishire Nayatra Sattvam Narajastamascha Navai Vikaro Namahan Pradhanam. That in the spiritual world, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the great sage Shukadeva Goswami explains that Nayatra Kalaha, there is no destructive feature of Kala as well. And Prakriti, which consists of the three gunas, as you have specifically asked about the Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna, Nayatra Sattvam Narajas Natamascha. In the spiritual world, there is no absolutely no trace of the three gunas. Neither is there birth, death, old age or disease. Everything is eternal. So it is a rough example, a simplistic example to help us understand that the material world is actually mithya. It is false and illusory, whereas the real world is the spiritual world. But there are no incongruities. In fact, the meaning of Vaikuntha is Vigata Kuntha Yasmad. Kuntha means misery, anxiety, difficulties, suffering. And the place which has no suffering, no misery, as in the material world, that place is called Vaikuntha Loka, or the spiritual world. The next question, you mentioned that Krishna advised Arjuna to be transcendental in battle. Please clarify here, as during battle jivas will be in aggressive mood. So actually there are emotions and feelings even in the spiritual world, even in the spiritual realm. There is even a spiritual attraction, spiritual love, and the distorted reflected version of that is kama or lust. And the real thing, the real love called prema, exists only in the spiritual world. Likewise, there is also something called spiritual anger, as displayed by Arjuna and the Pandavas, the eternal associates of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. This transcendental, divine, spiritual anger was also displayed by Hanuman in the great battle with Ravana. So Hanuman's anger, Arjuna's anger, they are not ordinary, because they are not ordinary. They are divine spiritual personalities from the spiritual world, and their so-called anger is also divine or spiritual anger. This is also very beautifully explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.7.35, that anyone who died in the battle of Mahabharata at Kurukshetra, whoever saw the Supreme Lord Krishna and died, they all attained moksha, liberation. Not only yasyantyadankshanam bala partha bhima vyajahvaena harina nilayam tadiyam. Even the people who were killed by Arjuna, Bhima and Balarama, So all of them attained moksha or liberation. So such is the potency of the divine anger of Arjuna, the Pandavas or Hanuman. The next question by Shri Pradeep ji. Namaste Guruji, excellent coverage of Purushottama Yoga. Thank you. Material world has been compared to mirage of a banyan tree where the eternal tree has attachment. So yeah, the whole description. And through the sharp shastra of vairagya to cut the tree from the roots. This sounds too simplistic, but it will probably be spread across many births. So, how we become free from the entanglement of the material world, of material bondage, and attain moksha or liberation depends on the practitioner, on the spiritual practitioner, and also on the kripa or the mercy of the Supreme Lord and his pure devotees. So there are two factors that determine the duration of time. How long would it take for a person to attain moksha or liberation? The first is called sadhana siddhi, that by one's own spiritual practice one attains moksha and liberation. It again depends on the sincerity and the application of spiritual practices by a certain individual. So it is not some mechanical process, just like we go to a college and get admitted, and exactly in 4 years or in 5 years we study, and then we are qualified. So the attainment of moksha is not a mechanical process. It depends on the practice, sincerity of the practitioner, and also ultimately depends on kripa siddhi, the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And by that, even in a moment, in an instant, one can attain moksha or liberation from all material bondage. So it can be instantaneous or it may take many births. The next question, Guruji, Paramdhama is the place of abode for all souls and Bhagawan. Could you please describe how no energy is needed there, and if everyone is having only Karana sharira, how do they recognize each other? So the first point is that in the spiritual world there is no need for any additional, extra or artificial energy, as stated in 15.6 of the Bhagavad Gita. न तद्भासयते सूर्यः न शशांको न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम paramam mama. The supreme abode of Lord Shri Krishna does not need any light from the sun or the moon or electricity or fire, because everything is self-illuminating, everything is spiritual in nature, and therefore there is no need for any additional light. Just like only when it becomes dark we fix a bulb. So when there is ample sunlight we don't need a tube light or a bulb. Likewise, when we are in the spiritual light of Brahma Jyoti in the spiritual world, there is no need for a bulb like the sun or the moon or any of the luminaries of the sky. The next part of the question, that if everyone is having only Karana Sharira, actually in the spiritual world, Mukti is defined in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.10.6 as Muktir hitva anyatha rupam swarupena vyavasthitihi. After liberation, after mukti or moksha, one is situated in one's eternal spiritual body called Swarupa Siddhi or Swarupa Sharira. And there are 5 kinds of Siddhis or moksha after liberation, either Sarupya, Salokya, Samipya, and the 5th one is regarded to be, then there is Sagshti, and then there is sayujya, sakshti samipya sarupya salokya aikyatvam diyamanam na krihnanti vinamat sevanam janaha. So there is sarupya mukti. So there are various kinds of muktis or vimuktis, that is vishesha mukti after liberation. This is a very deep subject matter, elaborately explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore it is not that one is only in a Karana sharira, one is in Divya Sharira or Divya Swarupa, a divine form with all divine, transcendental, spiritual senses, spiritual mind. So one can very happily and easily recognize all the other Divya Swarupas in the spiritual world. The next question: one prerequisite given to feel soul and Paramatma is purity of Antahkarana. One can do meditation or do bhakti of Supreme Lord. If you see the life of Buddha and Mahavira, both got enlightenment through meditation. They got lots of siddhis too. My question again is going back on how effective is meditation where steps are defined. The best path of meditation is the path given by Patanjali in the Ashtanga Yoga system, and even in at the end of Dwapara Yuga, this system was rejected in the Bhagavad Gita to be impractical by Arjuna himself, who was such a great personality. So therefore, especially in the present age called Kali Yuga, meditation or dhyana is the most impractical and ineffective method for attaining the supreme perfection of moksha, for Atma Sakshatkara, for Paramatma Sakshatkara and Bhagavat Sakshatkara. It is the most impractical method. Maybe simply doing some meditation for getting some peace of mind, some relaxation of mind may be practical, but not for the highest achievement of Bhagavat Sakshatkara or Atma Sakshatkara. The process of meditation is rejected even in Dwapara Yuga. It is recommended in Satya Yuga, Krite Yad Dhyayato Vishnuhu, that in Krita Yuga or in Satya Yuga one could attain Bhagavat Sakshatkara by the process of dhyana or meditation. So now coming to the final question by Radha Jivi. Hare Krishna Prabhu, in today's session you mentioned that a person whose Rajoguna is prominent is passionate about his work. Does it mean he will be a Karma Yogi but still on death he does not reach the highest place? Why? So whether one may be in Rajoguna or Tamoguna or in Sattvaguna, the goal should be to connect oneself to the Supreme Lord by the process of Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, by which Krishna says in 14.26 as Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate, that by engaging in unflinching and unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, one immediately transcends all the three modes of nature, and the qualities, the characteristics of such a person who has transcended the three modes of nature are beautifully explained in 14.22 to 25, that such a person becomes like a witness to the waves of gunas. So he does not become attached or he does not detest the flow of gunas. Sometimes he may be even a person who has transcended the three modes. As long as one is in the material world, the gunas may come and affect such a person like the waves of a river, but such a person, he neither becomes attached to these gunas nor does he detest that now tamoguna has come. He just looks at all these interactions of Prakriti as a witness and becomes detached from all of them. And in acting in that way, one whatever situation one may be in, and especially by remembering the Supreme Lord at Antyakala, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayaha. One without any doubt can attain the supreme perfection by remembering the Supreme Lord at the final examination of our life, that is at the time of leaving our body, at the time of death. So the second part of the question is, it is told that the soul leaves the material body when it is old and deceased. Then how do we account for child deaths and stillborn babies? Why does the soul decide to leave so early? So it is not the decision of the soul to die an early death. When we observe childbirths who are stillborn, or child deaths, infancy deaths, this is also according to the laws of karma, according to karmana daiva netrena jantuhu deha upapattaye. So according to the stringent laws of karma, one is governed, and sometimes there are childbirths or infancy deaths. So I had already given this example earlier that there are, especially nowadays, there are so many acts of grievous sinful activities, and we are seeing the result of such sinful actions that are being performed willingly, unwillingly, knowingly, unknowingly by people. We can see in the form of these kinds of unnatural deaths. It is explained that in Rajya, in the presence of the father, a son would never die. So death would be according to the natural process. So whereas in the present age there is such a high increase of sinful activities that we are able to see such horrible situations wherein children die in young age or even in infancy. So why? Because we are doing such actions, like for example abortion. Abortion is such a grievous sinful activity. A child has come to the safe shelter of its mother. What is supposed to be the most secure and the safest place for the child, even there we are committing such grievous sinful activities, including the Manu Samhita clearly states that it's not only the mother who is responsible for the child, for the death of the child in the womb. Even the doctor, even all the people who assist and help in the murder of the child in the womb of the mother, they all, at least when a child is born, and if somebody goes to attack it, the child can somehow defend back. But here it is in such a helpless condition, in such a helpless state, and in that helpless state, if a conspiracy is made by the mother, by the doctors and everyone to murder the child, so all of them get implicated in that grievous sin. Next birth they are also killed either in the womb or as soon as they are born. They are born with as still babies or with so many medical complications. So all these are the result of grievous sinful activities like abortion or unrestricted meat eating, unrestricted animal killing. So these are all the results of such grievous sinful actions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.